Roman Reigns won the Universal title at WWE Payback on August 30th, 2020 by defeating The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, and Braun Strowman in a no-holds-barred triple threat match. This win took place in front of no fans in attendance inside of the Thunderdome in Orlando, Florida. Instead, thousands of fans watched on from LED screens. These virtual fans in attendance and the millions watching at home did not know that they'd be witnessing the beginning of something historic. Roman Reigns has held that Universal Championship for almost 3 years as of the recording of this video, and on the Friday, June 2nd, 2023 episode of SmackDown, Roman Reigns surpassed 1,000 days as Universal Champion. Just how has he managed to stay that relevant in the social media era? In an era where attention spans are shorter than ever, while the amount of content available is more than ever. This is the story of Roman Reigns' 1,000-day title reign. Now, I must preface by saying this. I previously made videos chronicling the 1-year anniversary of Roman's Universal title reign and the 2020 feud he had with Jey Uso, so I'm just going to gloss over those topics in this video. I encourage you to check out those videos if you want to see the full stories, and I'll link them in the description for you. Roman Reigns, he had been there, done it all in WWE by the time 2020 rolled around. He had main evented WrestleManias 31, 32, 33, and 34, and he was also on a collision course to main event WrestleMania 36 with Goldberg when the global pandemic got in the way of that. Now, Roman, due to health risks, he chose to sit out of early WWE pandemic era programming, having stepped away in March 2020 just before the empty edition of WrestleMania. In his place as the face of SmackDown stood Braun Strowman, a perennial upper mid-card talent that just had not made it over the hump. Strowman's run on top of SmackDown was lackluster to say the least, and it featured a feud with the tag team of Miz and Morrison before The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, thankfully dethroned him at SummerSlam 2020. As The Fiend was celebrating his newly crowned championship, he was attacked in the ring by none other than a returning Roman Reigns. Roman had not been seen on WWE TV for 5 months, and boy, I don't know about you, but we were ever so glad to see him. I know I was. In contrast with his usual portrayal on WWE TV, Reigns aligned himself with Paul Heyman and won the Universal Championship just a week later at Payback 2020. But no one had any idea what was on the horizon, as this Universal title reign is still going on in the summer of 2023. Roman has done something that no top star has done since Hulk Hogan. Not Attitude Era favorites like Stone Cold, Triple H, or The Rock. Not favorites from my childhood like Eddie Guerrero and John Cena, and that is hold the World Championship for 1,000 plus days. What makes this reign so impressive, even more impressive than Hogan's in my opinion, is the sheer climate of the wrestling landscape and the world in 2023. Attention spans are shorter than ever thanks to on-demand subscription services and apps like TikTok and Twitter. People nowadays, we literally have the entire world at our fingertips. If I want to watch The Sopranos on my phone, I can. If I want to read articles, I can. If I want to watch YouTube videos teaching me how to cook fried rice, I can. In Hogan's era, there were only a handful of channels to watch and video games were still in their infancy, and the internet was not even around yet. Imagine that. In 1989, wrestling was appointment viewing. You grabbed Grandma, Uncle Mark, your cousin Jose, and you watched Saturday night's main event to see if Hogan could survive his rematch against Andre the Giant. Everyone was talking about wrestling. Nowadays, on top of the overbearing amount of content available, wrestling fans are always clamoring for something new. This was evident throughout the 2010s when guys like Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, and Daniel Bryan all received massive pushes, thanks in large part to an outcry from a vocal minority of wrestling fans on Twitter. Roman, in this title reign, he has faced every internet darling out there, from Cesaro, Seth Rollins, to Daniel Bryan and Finn Balor. Roman has survived them all, and best of all, he has managed to avoid getting stale throughout these 3 years with fresh and interesting storylines to keep us, the fans, wanting more. Roman is not doing this alone. He has recruited the help of his family and Paul Heyman to form the most important faction of the decade, the Bloodline. It began with Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, and the Usos, Jimmy and Jay, as the founding members. Eventually, the Usos' third brother and Roman's cousin, Solo Sikoa, joined, and even Sami Zayn had a short stint in the Bloodline. Solo joined the fray when he helped Roman retain the Universal Championship in the main event of Clash at the Castle against Drew McIntyre. Together, the Bloodline is drawing massive numbers for WWE. Just 2 weeks ago, the July 7th episode of SmackDown peaked at 3 million viewers during the Tribal Court segment. That edition of SmackDown became the highest grossing WWE event ever, at Madison Square Garden. If someone would have told me in 2015, sheer moments after Roman winning the Royal Rumble started a riot in Philadelphia, that in 8 years Roman would be breaking ratings records and drawing record gates, honestly, I would have laughed. Roman was so despised that he managed to not only incite a riot, but also get The Rock and Rey Mysterio booed. Wrestling fans hated Roman Reigns, and they reminded WWE at every chance they could. Roman's turnaround from reject to global superstar is truly one of the greatest redemption arcs in wrestling history, and it really doesn't get talked about that much. During this title reign, Roman has managed to make his cousin Jey Uso a main event caliber superstar, and even has fans imagining Jey as Universal Champion. This guy was hosting karaoke segments in the summer of 2020 prior to the beginning of the Bloodline story. Record-breaking ratings and gates aside, let's look at the quality of wrestling that Roman has given us during this reign. One match that stands out to me in a lot of people's minds is the SummerSlam 2022 match against Brock Lesnar. WWE had done Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar literally what felt like 1,000 times leading into SummerSlam. Each time their matches, they just sucked, for lack of a better term. These guys just did not mesh in their roles, with Brock as the beloved heel and Roman as the hated babyface. Instead, this time, WWE decided to have Brock Lesnar play the babyface and Roman play the heel. And this just felt more natural for both guys, and the SummerSlam match reflected this. These two guys, especially Brock Lesnar, looked like they had the most fun they've ever had in a wrestling match on that night in Nashville. The image of Brock Lesnar lifting up the wrestling ring with a tractor while Roman stood in it will never leave my mind as long as I live. Just when you think you've seen it all in WWE, here comes the primal athlete and alpha male of our species, Brock Lesnar, with a tractor trying to kill Roman Reigns live on Peacock. This match was epic and is one of the best SummerSlam main event matches of all time. This match was a far cry from lackluster matches between the two, like their underwhelming WrestleMania 34 and SummerSlam 2018 matches. Brock Lesnar, he literally looked like he actually wanted to be there, and Roman was finally cast in the proper role of top heel. Roman followed this banger of a matchup with another classic just a month later, this time in Cardiff, Wales at Clash at the Castle against Drew McIntyre. Now, what made this match so spectacular was the crowd dynamic. Booking a star in a prominent position in front of their hometown/country's crowd has been a staple of the Triple H era, and it began here with McIntyre. The crowd was heavily invested in the outcome as they wanted to see the United Kingdom native McIntyre dethrone Roman Reigns, and it made for a match that kept most fans on the edge of their seat. That kind of investment in wrestling had been lacking for the most part in WWE over, I'd say, the past 10 years or so. Roman, he didn't stop there though. The next big match following this formula came at Elimination Chamber 2023, taking place in Montreal, Canada. Roman was set to face Montreal native Sami Zayn, who would be challenging Reigns for his Universal Championship in his first ever pay-per-view main event in WWE. Now, what made this so special was the year-long build-up to the match. WWE had been telling a story that saw Sami Zayn become a member of the Bloodline while forming a bond with Jey Uso in the process. The wrinkle of Sami Zayn, this pasty white, red-headed Canadian being added to a bloodline featuring Samoan freaks of nature and members of a historic wrestling dynasty made for must-see segments. Sami dancing with Roman backstage, calling himself an Usologist, and tales of the bloodline eating at Waffle House are among the highlights of these segments. The Sami Zayn Honorary Us storyline is one of the best storylines of the past decade. I believe it's on a similar tier, or just a tier below the CM Punk Money in the Bank 2011 storyline, the Yes Movement, and Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso. Jimmy, Heyman, and even Reigns had embraced Zayn, but Jey was slow to embrace the Honorary Us. He eventually did, and then when he did, they formed a bond with him that was unique to the others. This storyline culminated in a one-on-one match between Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn on February 18th, 2023 in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, at the Elimination Chamber. This match featured a raucous crowd the likes of One Night Stand 06 and Money in the Bank 2011. This further proved the formula that Triple H has been using as a booking strategy to be brilliant. Sami had his moment in the sun and enjoyed a career-defining night even in defeat. Sami did not need to win the Universal Championship to have this storyline and match go down in history. This match was proof that Reigns could create a star that was not a member of his family, as he elevated Sami to heights that he had never seen before in his career. Speaking of wrestlers who we felt needed to win the Universal Championship, That brings me to none other than Cody Rhodes. Rhodes returned to WWE at the Royal Rumble after missing 6 months with a torn pectoral muscle and won the 30-man over-the-top rope battle royal, setting him up for a date with Destiny at WrestleMania 39 in Los Angeles. This match is arguably the most controversial moment of Reigns' 3-year title run, and that's due in large part to a large portion of the audience wanting to see Rhodes finish his story and knock off the Tribal Chief. With investment pouring in for both parties, a match environment not seen in a long time where the crowd actually wanted to see the babyface challenger beat the heel champion. I know it sounds simple, but WWE had been relying on past stars to main event WrestleMania for well over a decade, so seeing a throwback babyface like Cody challenge the top heel in the company was a spectacle for many. This was the first WWE Championship main event of WrestleMania that featured a full-time babyface and full-time heel in a one-on-one match since WrestleMania 24, when Edge defended the World Heavyweight Championship against The Undertaker 15 years prior. The match delivered and caused real uproar from many fans when Cody Rhodes came up short after Roman cheated yet again to win the big one. With this much suspension of disbelief while watching wrestling, I truly felt like a kid again while watching the match and even the aftermath play out. Roman seemingly proved the company to be right in keeping the main world title on him, since he has now entered a Bloodline Civil War storyline after his cousins the Usos turned on him. The Bloodline is the hottest thing going on right now, and with WWE in a contract year with Fox for the rights to SmackDown, keeping the title on Roman was a smart business move, even though a lot of us wanted to see Cody win the Universal title. Segments like the Tribal Court and the rules of engagement between Roman and Jey Uso have been genuine must-see segments as the two head for a third main event match, this time at the second biggest show of the year, SummerSlam. Who would have ever expected a SummerSlam to be headlined by Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso in a one-on-one match, with the right to be Tribal Chief on the line no less? Whatever happens at SummerSlam, let's be honest, Roman Reigns is likely to retain and continue his title reign until maybe WrestleMania 40 when Cody could try to get his revenge. However, that is no guarantee that Roman's reign will end there. I can guarantee though that we will continue to enjoy the Tribal Chief as Universal Champion. And as Triple H once said about Roman, this is an era I will tell my grandchildren about. This has been the story of Roman Reigns' 1,000 plus day Universal title reign. I hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you all so much for watching.